Hi and welcome back to Money Experiment PH. Today we are going to take a look at the ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund. This is actually the second UITF or Unit Investment Trust Fund that we will be talking about in this channel and series. If you missed out on our first video about GCash GInvest ATRAM Global Consumer Trends Feeder Fund, we will be putting the link down in the description box below, and you can also click through the cue card showing in your screens. We highly suggest that you check that out first, as the flow of discussion will be the same. Another thing is that we've went through the basics and need to knows in the first video. In this video, we will directly hop into the overview and risks of this specific feeder fund. So again, let's dissect the fund name, ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund. So ATRAM is the company name, and then Global Technology is the theme of the fund, and then feeder fund is the structure. So a feeder fund is a fund investing in another fund. In this case, ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund is investing in sub-fund Fidelity Fund's Global Technology Fund. So in ATRAM's website, you will see the net asset value per unit as of March 31, 2021, which is at 203 Philippine peso, and the daily change at 0.89%, and the year-to-date change of NAVPU at 12.18%. You will also see the overview, performance, key facts, manager, and documents. So in the fund overview, it says that the fund seeks to achieve long-term capital appreciation by investing all or substantially all of its assets in a collective investment scheme that invests principally in equity securities of companies throughout the world that derive or benefit significantly from technological advances and improvements. So let's briefly peek at what this fund is investing in, looking at the key information and investment disclosure statement of ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund as of February 26, 2021. So we can see that the top holdings of the fund are Microsoft Corporation at 6.1%, Apple at 5%, Visa at 4.5%, Alphabet at 4.4%, Intel at 3.6%, Samsung Electronics at 3.5%, Cisco Systems at 2.9%, Hon Precision at 2.9, NXP Semiconductors at 2.8, and Analog Devices at 2.6. So just looking at this, you may have an idea what kind of companies or technology this fund is investing in. Let's see now the regional exposure. So again, the majority is still at USA at 70.2%, followed by Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Germany, United Kingdom, Sweden, China, Switzerland, and then Hong Kong. As of the sector exposure, so as this is a technology feeder fund, you would expect that, of course, the majority of the holdings would be on information technology. Next would be communication services, consumer discretionary, industrials, financials, and materials. So going back to ATRAM's website, let us check the performance of the feeder fund. So the current net asset value per unit as of March 31, 2021 is at 203. And if we look at the cumulative performance percentage, for a month, it's 2.53%, and for 1 year, it's 75.43%. So for several years, general global stock market was a bullish market, but if you check out the graph, after the COVID crash, sometime between March and April 2020, that's why there's a dip here. As you can see, the tech stocks have been soaring. Let us now look at the key facts of the feeder fund. So the asset class is equity, meaning stocks. The fund type is UITF. The benchmark is MSCI AC World Information Technology Index. So as we mentioned in our first video for this series, MSCI is a company that publishes many benchmark index. Most of investment firms or ETFs uses its benchmark one way or another. Some funds' purpose is to strictly follow the benchmark. Some just indicate the benchmark whose strategy or theme are similar. So the index itself is a different topic and can be quite a long discussion, so we will leave it for our future videos. Inception date is April 30, 2018. So this fund has been around for more than 3 years in the Philippines. The risk profile is aggressive. So this means the change in net asset value per unit or NAVPU or your investment might be very volatile. For currency, it's Philippine peso, meaning you can deposit and withdraw from ATRAM in Philippine peso. The Bloomberg ticker is ATRGTEC. The trust fee is at 0.95% per annum. This means this is the fixed fees per year. So this is regardless of whether your evaluated profit is positive or negative. One thing to note here is that 0.95% per annum is fees that is charged specifically by ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund. So since ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund also invests in other funds, which is Fidelity Funds Global Technology Fund, please note Fidelity Funds Global Technology Fund also has its own fees. And then for the fund structure, given in the name, it's a feeder fund. So since we've mentioned about the trust fee of 0.95% per annum, let us also check the amended declaration of trust. So according to this document, the combined fee per year might be much larger than you think. So it's written here that it's 2.95%. Again, what does this mean to you? This means you will earn less when your investment goes up, and you will lose more when your investment goes down. So if you've watched our first video, we've mentioned that fees charge is at 2.5% per year for ATRAM Global Consumer Trends Feeder Fund. But for this UITF, ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund, it is even more expensive in fees, which is around 2.95% or almost 3% per year. As we always remind our viewers, investors should think and analyze carefully if they are willing to invest in UITF, considering the fees charged. The fee might look small, but if stock market does not perform well enough, it can be quite dragged down. So if you invest in a fund, you should have a valid reason that you want to invest in this fund, even if you're paying high fees. So going back to ATRAM's website, as you can see here, Fidelity International is the delegated investment manager for the UITF, or the money that you are investing in ATRAM. So as an investment manager, they are responsible for the investment strategy and buying selling of the stocks. Again, ATRAM's role here is similar to a retailer since it's selling Fidelity funds to the Philippine market. So you can find 5 documents in this page. First is the prospectus. Second is the annual and audited financial statement of ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund as of 2019. Next is the amended declaration of trust. Next is the primer, and finally the key information and investment disclosure statement. So again, we are going to mainly review the KIIDS, or the key information and investment disclosure statement, and occasionally visit other source documents when further information is needed. So going back to the KIIDS, as of February 26, 2021, the minimum investment is at 1,000 Philippine peso, and additional investment can also be done by 1,000 Philippine peso, and there is no minimum holding period. The fund structure is a UITF feeder fund, and the net asset value per unit as of this date, February 26, 2021, is at 198 Philippine peso, and the total fund net asset value is at 2.8 billion Philippine peso. The dealing date is daily. It means we can subscribe and redeem daily. The redemption settlement is trade date plus 5 business days. So redemption settlement means how long it would take for you to receive your money after the sell order. It says trade date plus 5 business days, but there is a note that ATRAM reserves the right to settle on trade date plus 7 business days if settlement of redemption from target fund gets delayed. So for peace of mind, maybe we can think it might take up to 2 weeks because there might be circumstances like holidays in the middle of the redemption period. You can find the same information from GCash website. Buy order can take 4 banking days, sell order can take up to 7 banking days. Let us now look at the investment objective and strategy. So similar to the first ATRAM feeder fund, this fund also seeks to achieve long-term capital growth. This means the product is suitable for long-term investors. Technically, short-term investment is nearly impossible since buy order can take 4 business days, sell order takes 7 business days. This already takes 2 to 3 weeks for you to buy and sell as soon as you buy. So for the client suitability and key risk and risk management, these are the same to the first feeder fund that we have discussed. So again, we highly suggest for you to watch our first video as we briefly went through these. So as you can see here, again, there is a note that should be taken seriously by any investors of the fund. It says here that investors should be aware and understand that all investments involve risk and that there is no guarantee against losses on investments made in the fund. The fund manager employs strategies to mitigate risks. However, there is no assurance that no loss will be incurred. Especially, please note that this is not insured by PDIC since this is not a depository product. Now let's discuss the fund performance so far. So if you look at the feeder fund, the target fund, the benchmark fund for the 3-year period, they've been moving tightly. With this, I would say this is a passively managed fund because it moves the same as the benchmark fund. But as per Fidelity International's prospectus, the sub-fund is actually actively managed, which means the delegated investment manager can buy and sell stocks anytime and whenever they want to. And looking at the investment objective of the prospectus, it mentions a minimum 50% of the sub-fund's net assets will be invested in securities deemed to maintain sustainable characteristics such as environmental and social characteristics on an ongoing basis. So this includes but is not limited to climate change, water and waste management, product safety, supply chain, health and safety, and human rights. Basically, ESG or environmental and social corporate governance. So, a lot of companies, including investment firms, are including ESG in their investment strategy these days. So, Fidelity Fund has declared the same, where they are adopting ESG investment within the fund. So, to wrap it up, for pros and cons, they're basically the same as the first feeder fund, as the overall structure are quite the same. So, for pros, there is an ease of access to this investment option through GInvest by GCash. The initial investment amount is relatively small at 1,000 Philippine peso. It's managed by professionals, so I guess they should know what they're doing, managing risks and following any trends. In terms of diversification, as shown earlier in the KIIDS and other reports, it's pretty diversified, having different investments in different sectors and countries. It's also Philippine peso denominated, and you can expect high returns since the risk appetite of this investment is high or aggressive. For cons, just a note that most of them are the disadvantages when you invest to a fund. So first thing is there's high fees, as we mentioned in the earlier parts of the video, which is expected due to the structure of a feeder fund. It also takes time entering and exiting due to the business days intervals from opening and withdrawing the investment. You might lose a lot of money. We did mention in the pros that you can expect a high return due to the aggressive nature of the investment, but likewise, you can expect to lose a lot of money if situation goes unfavorable. Finally, you have no control where to put the money or what allocation percentage should be, since this is the investment manager's decision. And finally, this feeder fund also provides a good option for the Philippine market to invest in a fund with a global technology theme. Personally, this is not an investment advice, but Money Experiment PH portfolio has quite a good allocation of investment among technology companies for our long-term strategy, which by the way, you can check our Etoro profile in the description box down below. The world in the future will be different from the world we live in right now, and what we see the key player of the changes will be among these tech companies. If you have the same outlook as us, or you would like to venture on technology-themed stock companies without having to comb through the list and list of companies, this may be for you. Also, although we are talking about ATRAM in this video, just to note that this is not the only option out there available should you choose to put your money in an investment that is related to this theme or a feeder fund. You can also try browsing through other banks' feeder funds available in the Philippines. One of the many sources you can use is uitf.com.ph, and also do your research, of course, before investing. And that's it for our second video in this series. Thank you for watching. Please click that notification bell for updates on our future videos. And if you like this video, hit that like button. That would greatly help us with YouTube's algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe. See ya!